Today I'm going to be refreshing my gravel bike after having it about a year and a half. So I'm going to walk you through 4 major things that you can do on a bike to make it feel like it's brand new again. What I love about gravel bikes is they are very low maintenance. So over the past year and a half, the only thing that I've done on this bike is really just clean it and keep the chain lubed and of course air in the tires. That's about it. So before I get started on the 4 major things, I'm just going to give it a good cleaning and then we'll get started. One of the things that I'll be doing today is replacing the chain. So no need to clean the chain. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. But before I do, I'm just going to check the stretch on this because I believe this is the original chain. And so let's check. Man, that thing, we're at like 0.5 on this. I can get it to go to 0.75 on this tool, and that's about where I change a chain. But man, this chain has lasted a long time. This is SRAM Force on this bike, by the way. Gotta love how easy these chains with a master link, which most chains have today. They're so easy to take off. So using the pliers there, just remove it. Anytime you put on a new chain, you want to do a bit extra cleaning on the drivetrain. So I clean the chain ring and the cassette with my gear brush, degreaser, and then when I'm done, I take a paper towel, just spray some degreaser or rubbing alcohol on it, and just clean off all the teeth. Again, you want to put a brand new chain on a super clean drivetrain, so that's what we're doing now before we clean the rest of the bike. And I always clean the drivetrain before I clean the rest of the bike. That just makes sure that you don't get grease over a clean frame. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is bleed the brakes. I've got the wheels off, so I've already started that process. Bleeding brakes is not one of those things you wake up and just look forward to doing, but you just got to do it every once in a while. It's not like my levers are spongy, it's just they're coming in too far to the bars, and I haven't bled the brakes since I got the bike a year and a half ago, so it's time to do that. I'm going to try a tool that was sent to me by Red Side Racing. It's a syringe holder. I'll show that when it's hooked up and let you know what it's like. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Now, the nice thing about these SRAM Force brakes is they utilize the SRAM Bleeding Edge tool, which makes the process easier and cleaner at the caliper. I actually made a video 7 years ago on how to bleed SRAM hydraulic road brakes. I went back and watched it this morning to see if maybe I should refresh that, but man, everything is still very relevant in that video. If you're interested, I'll just link it below. All right, let's get these brakes done and then we'll move on to the next step. I just pulled the rear brake pads out and you probably can't see it in the video, but one of the pads is about done. So these are getting replaced. I hope I have some in my toolbox. If not, I'm gonna be riding my other gravel bike today because I'm planning about a 3.5 hour gravel ride today. All right, that's another thing that we're doing. So that's 5 things that we're doing on the bike today. So here's that tool from Red Side Custom Tools. Very nice. It's the first time I've used it. So it just holds the syringe in place. I've got one down here at the caliper, and then I've got one up at the lever. So yeah, that's just gonna make it a lot easier just to keep the syringes from dropping down. All right, the brakes are done. Man, the SRAM Bleeding Edge tool is so easy to use. This is the first time I bled a bike with that tool in a while. The last one I did not have that. And man, it's so easy. All right, the next step is to put on new tires. So I've got the Vittoria Graphene 2.0s. I wanted to get the Schwalbe G1Rs, but they just weren't in stock at my local bike shop. So these are 700 by 45C tires. First time I've used these tires. So looking forward to trying these out. I've got the rear tire on and man, that bead was tight. All right, so the front bead was not as bad, probably because I was more prepared for it and geared up. So what I did, if you're curious, is I put the last part of the bead on down by the valve stem. That way I could get the bead seated way down inside the rim and then just pop that last part on by the valve stem. I also put the sealant in afterwards. Usually I just add the sealant and then put the final bead on. I use this little funnel that I got from Strauss Components. I'm gonna go to the next step, which is we're gonna put on the new chain. So what I do when I put on a new chain is I will hang up the old chain and then just put the new chain next to it. You can lay it out on the ground too, but this is a little bit cleaner. But oddly, it's the same length. I don't have to take any links out, which I've never had that happen before. So that's easy. All right, let's get this on the bike. Here's a little bonus tip for you, in case you're interested. So the SRAM Force derailleurs do not have that lockout like a mountain bike one where you can lock the cage forward, take all the tension off the chain. So I've made this little device out of an old coat hanger with hooked ends, and that way it's easy to install the quick link right in the middle there with no tension on the chain. And then I'm going to release that, stand on the pedals, and lock that quick link into place. Brand new chain, in case you don't know, has a really sticky coating on it coming from the factory. And you want to get as much of that off as you can, so spray a little rubbing alcohol onto a paper towel. That's not Windex, that's rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. And then you just spin it backwards, and you'll feel it kind of stick when you first start doing it, like stick to the paper towel, and then it'll get a little bit smoother, and that's how you know you're getting it off. Now you can't get all of it off. So I ride probably 3 or 4 or 5 hours on the new chain before I put any lube on it to get that sticky coating off. And you want to do that especially before you ride on dirt. And I usually wait until like I can kind of hear the chain wanting lube. You just got to get used to it. It gets a little noisy. And then I put lube on it. But yeah, that coating can really attract dirt, so you want to get it off. And then the last thing that I'm doing to refresh this bike, you probably guessed it, new handlebar tape. This is the original handlebar tape. It's really wearing out, especially where my hands go on the hoods. I ride on the hoods on the gravel bike like 90% of the time, and it's just wearing out. So I'm gonna go with black. So I got the Chinelli, however you say it. This is the cork tape. I like this 9er bar tape that comes on the bike. It's just, this is what my bike shop had in stock. So we're going with this. We'll see how nasty this bar tape is underneath after a 1.5 years of riding, a lot of it in hot and humid conditions. So I find the easiest way to do this is just to stand over the bike. It's easier than leaving it in the work stand to wrap the tape. So we'll unwrap this one. I'll wipe the bars down really well. Oh, it's not too bad. I did a good job wrapping this originally. Okay, sweet. Well, I'll still wipe the bar down and then put the new tape on there. This Chinelli tape is pretty easy to wrap. It doesn't have that little tape inside where you have to peel it off as you wrap it. Actually, I like this a lot better. So that is my very clean and very refreshed gravel bike. I did go out on the road and stayed in the saddle and put some pressure on the pedals in the gears that I use most often, and the chain skipped. So I waited too long to change the chain. Just keeping it real here on the channel. Even though the stretch, according to the gauge, was only at let's say 0.6 up to 0.75, it still skipped. So, you know, a 1.5 years, I should have changed the chain probably 3 or 4 months ago, but that's just the way it goes. So I'll be getting a new cassette, which I'm not looking forward to, but hey, after a 1.5 years and not much maintenance on this bike, I'm okay with that. So just to recap, what I did was I cleaned the bike, I bled the brakes, I'm gonna put on new brake pads, new chain, new tires, new handlebar wrap, and now a new cassette. So that's how you can really refresh your bike after having it for a while. Everything in this video applies to mountain bikes, except of course, instead of changing handlebar tape, you're changing out your grips. I did go ahead and pick up a new cassette and both front and rear brake pads at the bike shop this week and have those installed on the bike. And man, that SRAM Force cassette is expensive, over $200, so lesson learned on that one. I'll be changing my chains more frequently on my gravel bike. I live in an area that's flatter, so I end up staying in the same 2 or 3 gears for most of the rides. And even though the chain was not stretched out that much according to the tool, the gauge, it still wore out those gears pretty quickly. So definitely more frequent chains on this bike. Is there anything that you do on your bike to refresh it that I did not mention in this video? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're interested in more bike maintenance videos as well as bike reviews, gear reviews, ride videos, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love to have you be a part of the community. Catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.